start the show. The Good Life with DT. It's because welcome to the Good Life.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Good Life. Good Life. These boys crazy.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Good Life. What? A Good Life.
Holy my guy, happy podcasting day. What's up, man?
Yo, DT, what's poppin'? When you think back to Warped Tour, what's the first band that comes to mind?
Man, my first Warped Tour, I think on the main stage was Newfound Glory.
Yes.
An Alkaline
Yeah.
Trio, dude.
Those bands, so much fun live, and it would be hot as balls, but you would be out there singing along to every song and having the best, and Warped Tour is like a core memory. So we have to talk about who's joining us right now. Go for it.
Absolutely, man. Let's let them introduce themselves, man. But you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves. But I've been bragging about this one because I've been stoked for today. So go ahead, guys. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, and you can give a little background on yourselves.
All right, my name's Kevin Lyman, and I'm actually acting as an advisor with this tour and helping start something. A lot of people would say, like, where's Warped Tour? Where's Warped Tour lately? And I go, you know what? There's a lot of expectations if that came back. Probably there'd be a lot of pressure. But, you know, when Mike Kaminsky, who's coming up next, and Eric Tobin, you know, they've been talking about starting something, that grassroots tour again, where you're out there to develop artists, to kind of give them their step up by cooperating and working together. They're two people I respected, watched come up in the business, and I thought the timing was right. So I thought I'd jump in and help them. You know, it's been a while. I've been, teaching at the University of Southern California now for 6 years. So when they, the timing's right. And then especially when they said the name, I mean, and that's what Mike's got to tell you the name because, everyone's put every combination of names together for a festival or a tour out there. And sometimes the simplest is the best. And, Mike, why don't you jump in? This is Mike Kaminsky, and he's a pretty smart guy.
Thank you. I'm Michael Kaminsky. I've been doing artist management for 20 years. So, artist management is really about sitting down and, trying to have a vision with an artist alongside an artist, and then develop that vision by sort of building, the right team of people around them and seeing that through. And for me, I mean, I got into music through Warped Tour. I was like the first real concert I ever went to. I met Kevin. I still don't know if Kevin knows all this, but, I met Kevin because I was like a broke kid at 17 and literally couldn't afford to eat, and snuck backstage to go see if I could hang out by the catering line, and met this woman who I think sort of knew what was going on and invited me to come intern at a company that Kevin was at. It turned out, she was managing this little band called the Smashing Pumpkins. I had no idea. We were just hitting it off, having a good time. She introduced me to Kevin. But I've been doing management for a very long time. And Kevin has been a mentor of mine for a long time. Obviously built, I think, the most iconic tour for my scene and for my community, and learned a lot from Kevin. So for us to be able to come together now and say, hey, what is the modern version of this, development process look like? How can we work together and really, get the gang together somehow? It's like a dream come true. I never thought I'd be doing this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, when you think
cool.
Warped Tour, like you go back to your childhood and you live it and you have a good time, and now you're putting together. Tell us the name of this tour and who you got on.
Oh, that's right. So the name of the tour is called Summer School. And it's a little bit of a play. Kevin and I are both teachers and professors now. But, it's also, I think, we're trying to educate people on the new, music that's sort of coming up in the scene, right? So we have a really cool bill where I think it's nice and diverse culturally and musically. We have a band, Magnolia Park, right? We have Scene Queen. We have the Home Team. We have Stand Atlantic. And then opening every show, we have Honey Revenge and Let Down. So the the goal of the festival is it really is this like rotating bill of headliners every night. Everyone gets a full headline set. Every band plays every show. And the tickets, we can talk about the ticket price and the tickets because we spent a lot of time working on that. But tickets are like $35, right? So you can come, stay for the whole thing, maybe see a band you've heard about but never seen before. They're all really good performers. They all sound really great live. It's not, a lot of risk to kind of come out and like spend some money on this thing. But hopefully you're going to leave having discovered a lot of artists, which is, exactly what I think, Warped Tour was, where kids would line up at noon and stay till 7, and you were just there all day to find great music, right? And that's really where we're trying to go.
Yeah, I am so excited for this tour, man. This lineup is just, Magnolia Park and everybody on there. I'm excited to see, honestly, man. But we're stoked because it's making a stop in Omaha. So what made you guys want to stop in Omaha? I got to know.
Well, we had, Omaha. It was like there's about 30, 40 cities wanted the show. We were talking to different promoters and people were talking about it. But then when Omaha popped up and it was an offer to play one of your venues up there, I was like, deep in my mind, I was like, Omaha's the coolest city downtown ever. So like if these bands have never had a chance, they got to go play Omaha. It's always a great stop. You don't get all the shows. You're getting more shows than ever. You're getting more shows than you had a long time ago. But it's, it'll be a special show for the kids up there this summer. They don't have to travel. It's a fair price. We're talking about, a lot of people are talking about the economy right now and the economics and credit card debt, that this will be one of those shows that you wake up, the week out and you got 220s in your pocket, or you go mow a couple lawns or do some extra chores around the house. You can afford to go see 6 bands this summer if money's tight around the house. And I think the nice thing about this is Eric and Mike were able to A&R this, where I was kind of at that point where I booked all the bands on Warped Tour. I said, let's just use the foundation of what I used to build to deliver that cheap ticket, which included, organizing some sponsors that are supporting the tour. These tours are not supported at this ticket price without sponsors. So we called, friends up that were like part of Warped Tour. They probably, some of them launched their companies out of Warped Tour or had a big part of it at some point. And we got a lot of support there. Adobe Radio jumped on, 1RPM's come in and helped out, Hot Topics out there. I think Taco Bell's given us a bunch of food cards. We've got, so that support, and where we're at in building a brand, it's about building that brand summer school. So people start to trust that brand, was to be able to deliver that low ticket price. And we're putting all the money back in from the sponsorship to keep the costs down on this tour for the fans, and to brand the name, to make the show seem, a little, 1 + 1 = 3, and encourage kids to come out and explore new music. It's tough out there for bands right now. They get to a certain size, they get 400, 500, 600 fans, but to get to that next level, and that's what we used to do with my other projects, whether it was Warped or Taste of Chaos or those things. Try to package everyone up, deliver a value, and then those bands can come back and headline those same venues on their own the next time. And that would.
And then how do you know? Yeah. How do you know which bands you want to pick? Like, did somebody, put a little buzz in your ear, or are you just paying attention to like what is going on with like TikTok or radio, or how do you make the right call on like who's gonna be the first for summer school?
The most fun part of this to me is that everyone in this whole process are super big fans of music. We all actively listen to music. We discover new music. We still go to shows, even though we've been doing this forever. And so when we were putting together the bill, this thing was honestly a little scary to kind of approach people with. There hasn't been, I think, something sort of, in this exact vein where we're really focusing specifically on music discovery. It's not like, you go out and you spend a lot of money on some very well-known headliner that is going to bring in, many, many, many thousands of people. We were really trying to come up with just a superstar package of all of these up-and-coming bands. And to do that, you have to go, explain the concept to them and get them on board, right? Because there's a little bit of buy-in and risk on their part too, especially for something in its first year that's really untested. So we had our list, and we just started calling. Before we called anyone, we really just called the manager and the artist. And we just said, look, we feel like there's kind of this hole where we all are, where there's this glass ceiling where we can have all the buzz in the world and all the excitement in the world as an artist, because I'm in that same boat, right? I'm an artist manager. We can have all the buzz in the world, but a lot of other places right now, it's like these festivals. A lot of the established artists are taking other established artists out, right? A lot of the festivals are really packaging up, some of these artists that have been well known for a long time, and that makes perfect sense, right? You want to go out and get the people who are going to sell X amount of tickets. But we said, okay, but what's the next generation of headliner look like? So who are those bands that can, sound great, put on a great show, work really hard, have the buzz? So we actually went out and we just started calling the artists, and we said, look, we got this idea. Can you just kind of go with us on this and trust us that we're going to put together this great bill? But we're also going to make a few promises to you, right? Like, we're going to do a lot of marketing. We are going to hire a PR company. We're going to hire a publicity company. We're going to do all of our ads. We're going to do all this stuff. And I think every single artist we called from the beginning was like, we get it. Like, if you figure it out, call us back and let's do the formal, dance. But we're really sold on this idea. Let's make it happen. And then we had to go back and say, okay, well, now we got to go figure out how we're going to sell this thing for only $30. Like, we promised everyone we were going to sell this for $30, which is what you would pay to probably see just one of these artists. And right now we have 6 of them all together, and we still got to do it for $30. So, Kevin was bringing up the sponsorship, and this wouldn't happen without the sponsors. And again, it's scary to call a sponsor. Sponsors want to know how many tickets you sell and what's your demographic, what's everyone worth, what's the value of all this stuff. Those are, hard sells sometimes. And we started calling sponsors who, we knew had either, developed something, with Kevin or some of us, or maybe just believed in the community or believed in the scene. And I think we were kind of floored. People just came in and said, yeah, we need this. Like, the community needs this. How do I write a check? I was literally at coffee with one of these companies, and I wasn't even pitching them. I was just like, oh, I'm, part of this thing, and we're really excited. And they literally just asked me at coffee. I was like, I almost thought they were just like, oh, do you need money? I'll write you a check tomorrow to help do this thing. 100% of the money from the sponsorships is going into the tour, right? Like, all of that money is there to subsidize the price. And we really felt like, sponsorships really need to sort of take, sponsors really need to take that view that they're going to add value to something, right? Like, we can't just stick their name on something right now. If they're going to be a part of this, then how are they contributing to the fans, or how are they contributing to the artist, or what are they doing? In this case, for them to really lower the ticket price, allow us to do marketing for these artists, to bring in publicists for this artist, to add value to what everyone's doing. It was a lot of people believing in something sort of on a hypothetical level before it existed. And it really, it came together, and we were so stoked at the amount of people that immediately just came to say, yeah, we're here, we're in, how do we help?
Absolutely. And you guys did, you couldn't have picked a better lineup. So the guys that you picked are just straight grinders. Like, these guys, that's how I know of, like, Magnolia Park and Let Down. They just stay online grinding and promoting themselves nonstop. So you get an added bonus with them too, for sure. So is this going to be kind of like that same, like, how is the headliners going to switch throughout the shows of, like, who headlines and whatnot, kind of like how Warped Tour was, where you didn't know the lineup till you got there, kind of a deal?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, kind of come early, see everyone play, enjoy the day. Everyone's been really. I think that we also have a lot of managers that are managing these bands that kind of grew up in that scene of music and saw how it worked, and now they're managing that next wave of bands. So the discussions about cooperation have been really good. They kind of get it. It's put your egos aside for a second, take a step back together to move forward 2 steps. So those discussions, it's for myself at least. I've gone back to that, like, very basics of trying to figure out who can share a drum kit and who's going to share a crew, and how are they can save their costs, and how we can make it all work. And it was fun for me, and just on a personal level, having recently returned from Coachella, where on the main stage that they had No Doubt and Sublime were on the main stage, and primary bands who started on that tour in 1995. They were on the first Warped Tour in 1995. So, I don't know if I'll be around in 25 or 30 years, But it would be nice if these bands become those bands that can be playing on that larger scale. And it was great to see all the young crew, and the crew we put together on this is really fun because we've got some young professionals going on the road, and we're bringing, because me and Mike, we said we're in education, we're bringing a couple people are working their way up through our school, and they're going to be out on the road. So it's kind of, we've always felt that giving opportunities not only to bands but to brands like 1RPM is kind of in the marketplace, and fans, and it's just kind of, if it works really well, and one thing kids don't have to worry about, it's not going to be 100 degrees in a parking lot, and we don't have to have a tornado warning on this tour. It'll be one of the rare times that I'm, for me, not studying the weather 6 days out, nonstop, and looking at it, in the middle of the night, hoping that we're going to be able to
shelter in the basement this time. That's the difference.
Right. The hot days up in Omaha. I remember some hot days up in Omaha.
That's the best part, like being out in a parking lot and sweating it out and not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, as long as you had, your friends with you and you had your Vans on and you could see your favorite music. I mean, you know what? Whatever happens, if I die, I die. It was that sort of deal, like when you went to Warped Tour.
I had a flashback yesterday. Aquabats play, out there when we were out there. And the little green, they had the Yo Gabba Gabba little green guy dancing around. And at one point, someone said, "Gabba Gabba down." He passed out in the heat yesterday. And it was like, wearing that green suit yesterday. It was Gabba Gabba down over the radio. So we don't want any kids going down on this trip.
Yeah, most of this tour is indoors. So it's more of a traditional, I think, concert setup this year. But we do start early, right? So most places doors are around 4:00. And for $35, right, you can come at 4 and stay, all night and see all these artists. It does present these other kind of challenges, right? So it's like, now we got, how you going to fit, 50, 60 people every night in 2 green rooms. And, we want there to just always be continuous music all the time, right? So it's like, how are we moving everyone's gear off and on and getting the band set up and moving and stuff? So there's all these challenges. Luckily, Kevin's the master of that and has been really good at helping figure out that piece of the puzzle. But this really became a big challenge of all these different pieces and just how do we put on a great show? And there's so much that happens behind the scenes. I think maybe people don't even realize. But it feels like we got it figured out. It's going to be a really, really fun night. And for $35, come see a band that maybe you're just like, oh yeah, all my friends have talked about it, I don't know anything about it. You come and, our goal is that you leave, you go, oh wow, that's one of the best, new bands I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. We should
new music discovery.
Eric in on this too, by the way. We haven't talked about Eric yet. He came in a little bit late. So.
Sorry, I got in late because I'm trying to balance. These guys know I'm learning how to be a dad. So this is my balancing driving back from the barbecue and cooking lunch. And then I looked down and I said, well, there you have it. So I apologize. But there is a beautiful boiled hot dog cut up with ketchup on the side and vegetables to the right of it by the TV. So we're good.
There you go.
We're good, I think.
That's right. I mean, as long as the food separates, right? Food can't touch.
Can't touch. And I was worried I was cutting the hot dog that I was going to have because that was the last thing I forgot as I was running to here. I was running back in the room because I heard I can't eat this. I said, oh boy.
Hey, Tobin, did you ever watch Below Deck? We're one of those rich people that ride on those yachts, and he has a little divider for his food. Did you ever get one of those? I never saw that. You might want to get one.
I should probably get one of those. I hear that a lot. I am. I think as a one bowl kid, I always tell people, say, "What was your childhood like?" I'm like, I was a one bowl kid. Food came out in one bowl, and you got a spoon, and you just grabbed, and if you didn't eat fast, some other sibling was going to eat it. So it was. I'm from a one bowl life.
There you go.
So that's how it goes. We didn't get on this podcast to talk about music. We wanted to talk about my upbringing and how I'm running around not looking at my calendar, correct?
My wife's going to listen to this and be like, you're definitely not a one bowl kid, David. I need the separators at all times, chicken nuggets. I eat like a 4-year-old. So
it's okay. We have very close friends who are in the same boat. I have eaten, I think maybe Kevin and I says, I've eaten a little bit of everything from everywhere. And I can't say that I liked it all, but if it was weird and different, I had to try it. So that's probably my sins in life is let's not look backward on the things that I have tried traveling about. So there you go. But anyways, it's nice to connect with you guys, and thanks for taking the time. And I always it's fun to come on a little late in a way because I get to hear Kevin and Mike talk about it, and they both made this very convincing and compelling to do. And both great friends, and of course Kevin being all of our heroes. And I can say that because he's on this, because he's a buddy. So I was telling somebody yesterday, Kevin, that in 1996, again, I went to the Tri-County. I was very young. I was 17, and I went to Warped Tour, and I think I made my own T-shirt that weekend. It was a big deal. We had a scene in our little county in Western Massachusetts. We had scenes and all these little bands and punk bands, and it wasn't like the internet then. Like, you'd bike down to Strawberries and get your copy of Maximum Rock and Roll, and you do your best to memorize the reviews because you couldn't afford or find these 7-inches, and mail order seemed like a scam. And going to Warped Tour was about figuring out who your crew was. And for the time, like, there was 26 of you in your high school, in your hometown. You're like, all right, we're really outcast. We don't know who we are and all these things. Then you got to Tri-County Fairgrounds at the time, and I caught a ride, and I think 5 of us fit in a car that should have only fit 2, and got out there and bumped out. And you looked around and you're like, oh my God, there's legions of people that look and act like I do. And I have instant conversation. I met a lot of people, and of course had my little black book, which I guess is a precursor to a phone, and wrote numbers down and people I could stay with when I went to Boston to see, Dropkicks or something like this. And it was, someone asked me this morning at a thing I was at, like, do kids still care about alternative music? And I said, there'll always be a kid like me and like you that's at school and goes, damn, where do I belong? And then in that moment, you got to go to an event like Warped Tour and said, oh, I belong here. These are my people, and all of us get to have our jobs because we're part of a community. And I think that community never dies. The sounds change, or they sound like something before, and there's always a sort of a reinvention because there's got to be a place for us to go. And I think that whether this was asked or not, I think the exciting part about doing this tour is creating a place where wearing hoodies in a pit is okay. And where you can go and say, you like that band too? Like, we should hang out. And jobs and dreams and ambitions aside, like, you just belonging somewhere feels good. And I think there's an opportunity to go out and build something where belonging gets to, you get to own that again. You get to be a part of that. I think that's the bigger goal across this, is that, the lower price ticket, we're thankful to the sponsors for that, because it's like, hey, after I, sneak out and buy whatever I'm buying to hang out at night and all these things, I only got a few bucks left, but I love these bands and they're my favorites and I wish I could be them. I'm going to start my own band. That's the sort of the idea of both the tour and, even the labels and all these artists. Is still a place where you can go be whoever you want to be and become who you want to be. And it's kind of exciting. That was my full circle moment there, but reminds me, in, being 17 and making a t-shirt. That's all. That's what I want to give back in that community.
We'll be back after a quick break.
The Good Life Podcast with DT and Spicoli, proud to be partnered up with Sharp Painting. Over 16 years experience and family owned for 3. Put trusted hands on your interior and exterior painting needs. With summertime around the corner, have Sharp power wash your deck, stain your fence, and get 10% off. Now's the time to get outdoor ready. Sharp Painting. Reach out to them on Facebook for a bid. Sharp Painting LLC. That's SCHARFF Painting LLC. Or Sharp Painting@gmail.com. You can also call 402-637-9342.
Yeah, that's the memories, and that's the memories that, like, people want to walk away with, like, after they go to summer school, like, experiencing this with their friends, finding new music, walking away and saying, wow, let down, how have I never heard of him before? Or Magnolia Park, oh my goodness, like, this is so cool. And I just feel like this is just the beginning of what's going to happen with summer school. Like, you guys are creating something now with 8 bands, and who knows, like, in 2-3 years it could be 16 bands. Do you have that vision?
We have that hope.
You always got to get through the first one, and you got to do the first one right to get to the second one. That's I was always saying, everyone, they would ask how long, when something lasted 25 years. I said all we were trying to do was get to the next one, and you learn from the one you were doing to move forward to the next one. So this is definitely is a little bit of a learning curve, and even, it's I was telling you, it's sometimes easier to go in a big parking lot with a bunch of trucks and unload them and figure out the show than trying to figure out how to put a lot of stuff in a smaller venue.
Yeah.
It's even on our end, and, even the 40 something years of putting on shows of mine, it's kind of testing my brain in a little different way. And, it's fun. People that are creative in this world and motivated, the only thing you run out of is time. You don't run out of things to do. And people are always like, "Hey, Kevin, why are you?" And I go, it's a challenge, and it's not. That's what you do in life. That's what we try to encourage these. The kids that are coming. It's you're going to come to summer school, and we might be mentioning bands you don't know. So it's time to do your homework before we get there. Learn a little bit, and come on down. And we're trying to also inspire those kids to pick up a guitar or start a fanzine or a record label again or something super fun.
I am so happy that you guys are doing this. Honestly, yeah. I mean, just you three together doing this together, man, and what you guys do individually. It's like the Avengers came together.
We're doing, we're instilling that. Yeah, we're instilling that philanthropic thought. 50 cents a ticket is going to save the music. We did that on Warped Tour. A part of the ticket went to charity. We're doing it to save the music because music's being taken out of public schools, and music's so important. It's so important for those kids that and. So we're starting off right. We're starting it off with a little philanthropic bent. You'll probably see some tabling out there for some local nonprofits. We're only limited by space. We're not limited by ambition on this tour.
I love that.
And that's what will be. Hopefully at the end, people go, "Hey, I had a great day. It was a great value. I learned, and maybe I learned something else, or maybe made those friends that Eric made, and realized that." You're not alone out there, and you might have, a group of people that you could start, rallying it up and heading to, shows together throughout and build that scene. And it's been fun in Omaha. When you talk about Omaha, there's a scene of kids there that always loved this music that would have to pack up and go out to Kansas City or somewhere else to go to Des Moines. And now, Omaha's a real legitimate stop for people to go see these bands.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I got to ask. So you got the 6 bands on. I know, like Warped Tour, and other tours there would be like locals that would jump on. Are you doing like that in any of these other cities, or is it just going to be the 6 and that's going to be the 6?
This will be the core 6 people. There might be a couple cities we would do something special, but we're a little limited on space and time. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, with being indoors, it's a little bit different for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, in being fully transparent and vulnerable, about this is. We sort of all had this idea and this belief in this thing we wanted to do, and we called these managers, we called these bands, and they all believe in it, and the sponsors believe in it, and we're trying to bring together this community. And if the support's there, then I think the bands want to continue to be a part of it. I think the sponsors want to continue to be a part of it, and it would be really nice to find ways to help this grow and develop and have this space where. For me, it was like one of my first Warped Tours. It was Hayley Williams and Paramore, like playing to the parking lot. But there was a path for her, right? Where then the next year she played on the smaller stage inside. And then, 3 or 4 years after that parking lot experience, she was on the main stage. And that path to say, okay, cool, you're an artist, you're talented, you can put on a great show. Let's get you in front of people. You sort of knew you could start here and end up here. And really one of the core reasons why we started this is it's just there's not a lot of places for these artists to go. So if the support's there and the sponsors are wanting to and can continue to support us, and the artists believe in it and the fans believe in it, we definitely want to find ways to continue to expand this and grow the community and give these younger artists the space to become the headliners, right, of the future. And that would be our biggest win, I think.
Yeah, what I think about it is like this is just the beginning of like future Sum 41s, Yellow Cards, Newfound Glory, Paramore. I mean, Avenged Sevenfold was even on Warped Tour back in the day. So I think the bands that you grab right now like feel that this is going to be something special and it's going to be around for years to come.
Yeah, we're hoping, and I gotta say one of my favorite things about this is I forgot who brought it up, but the sense of community, right? Not just for the fans, but as someone now who's worked in the industry for 20 years, Eric and I started together at the same time, like right out of school. I've known Kevin now for 20 something years. We're kind of in a space to like work with people that we really love, that are good people who like believe in things and want to build this. And I think all the managers we work with and now the agents we have and the crew on the tour, you sort of get that like family vibe, right? Which like you could go out on Warp. You even went to Warp for a day and you were an artist for a day, right? And you went backstage and everyone hangs out together and they trade stories together and they actually become friends together. And that's what actually builds the community, not just for the fans, right? But the artists have a community too. And they had a place where they could go like, oh, I can hit up so-and-so because I met him on this thing. And we had, lunch and we talked about, this book that changed my life. And now we've been lifelong friends together and stuff. Having done Warped Tour for 10 years, that's how I made a lot of my friends that I now work with, or that, we do things together, projects together. And that's, tough because you kind of have to have that touring experience. You got to have that road experience to sort of get those bonds. So whatever I think exists within this space, and we're one part of it, but not just like uniting the fans, but really uniting people who play music or who work in music to like come together and find like-minded people and want to go out and do collaborations or want to team up and do some stuff that's never happened before. I think to us, that's like the really exciting byproduct of all of this. So not just like discovering this for fans, but, helping the industry come together and like meet people maybe they wouldn't have met before.
And then are you guys going out on the tours at all? Or are you guys actually going to go on the tour? Or are you going to go to certain shows? Or how are you guys going to do that?
Well, it'll be the first time I ever rode in a bandwagon, at least for the first week. So I'll be out at least the first week with everyone, get the stage together, work with the crew, kind of get everyone in a flow. But I really believe that, our young crew, this is going to be, once they're up and running, it's going to be a great experience for them to showcase their skills that they've been developing on other tours. And just a little bit, some of them I saw out at other events and Coachella and things, and they're super excited. For some of them, it'll be their first national tour. And I think they're going to be in good hands, but I don't think it's bad to go out for a week and kind of mentor them and kind of spend some time and get it in a flow. And who knows, if I'm having so much fun, there's always a Flying J truck stop or, somewhere where you can pick up 5 T-shirts for $10 or something, and then you're good to go, right? Or you end up wearing one of the band shirts every day, and all you need is two bathing suits.
There you go.
Yes.
Who knows? Once it's in your blood, it's always in your blood.
Is there any artist that you guys can talk about that like you really enjoyed developing a special bond with, that like our listeners would probably love to hear about that? If you could share like anything about that, working with one of the artists that became your favorite
on the tour now,
over your career, like one that either was with Warped Tour or now on Summer School.
I can give you one. While they think, I don't know if Kevin remembers this. So I'm in artist management. I started, this woman, Jillian Newman, brought me on. The first artist I ever worked with was this band Taking Back Sunday. I had reached out to them and I did a music video with them, and that's how we all met. So I think their first music video ever of all time. They slept on my couch for like 3 days while we shot this thing. They literally played a couch. They literally played a shack. After sleeping on my couch, there's like 80 people there, right? So I met their manager. I went to go work with Jillian, worked on those first 2 albums, right, under Jillian. And I think both those albums like went platinum. For sure, one of them did, right? But it was sort of the start of something new. And then they signed to a major, and that's when I was sort of like, look, I think this is time for me to like start my own company. And one of the first artists I ever signed on my own company were these 2 very young guys out of Colorado called 303.
Nice.
And this was like the MySpace era of stuff. So we were, there's a whole story behind it. We pulled all kinds of, fun things that happened, but we were like the number 1 artist on MySpace. So we had like 250 million streams, which back then was very significant. Now it's, whatever. Back then was very significant. And it was a similar situation to, I think, some of the artists on the tour here, where it's like we were doing like real things that were cool, but I don't know if anyone, sort of took us seriously or sort of, realized the scope of what we were doing. Maybe that's the better way to say it. People took it serious, but I don't think anyone realized like what this was really turning into. And this was right when I met Kevin, and he was, my mentor in the music space, very fortunate. And I was sort of like, hey, Kevin, I got this band or this artist, and can we do a date of Warped Tour? And Kevin gave us Denver, which is where the band was from, and it was sort of like we were the local band. And the guys came out, and I think there were 10,000 kids that showed up. And that was the moment, we had pictures, we had videos, we had, that was the moment where then we got to take that and show everyone, like, okay, you're all sleeping on this, right? If we didn't have that photo, photos tells a thousand stories. Be able to go to people and say, you have no idea what's happening and what this band is doing and how we're uniting all of these fans. That performance, I think, really set into motion, us being able to get some of the first radio stations on board and us to sort of, build out our label team and to then be able to show this to other agents who then wanted, to take the artist and book them on their festivals and book them on their, shows. So I think back, it's just there's a lot of artists where I feel like there's stuff happening and we don't know. And my favorite thing is when, I have a buddy and they're like, oh yeah, I have this artist and we're playing Red Rocks and, we're selling thousands and I've never heard of them.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's
the
great.
best, man. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for everyone. Yeah, that's significant. So that, for me, that was actually one of the turning points in my whole career was sort of that, like that moment to show people, who that artist had become.
You couldn't go an hour without hearing 303 on the radio back then. It was every hour that song was playing, man. It was nonstop.
It may still be the case on some stations, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's dope. I mean, I've been on radio for 20 years, and I remember, when I was on alternative rock radio, I think we were even playing 303, and I just remember, seeing, one of the music videos and just how fun they were and just how different they were. I'm like, what? How do you say the band name 303? Okay, I get it. I'm like, where are they from again? Are they high? Are they just party animals? What's going on? But I just remember, they were just fun, and everybody kind of gravitates toward that.
Michael, I got to ask you a question, man, since you brought up Taking Back Sunday. So we might be getting Adam on the podcast. We're doing a partnership with a local a concert place over here called Stir. They're coming here in a couple months. We're trying to get Adam on, but I'm going to ask him. But I'm just going to ask you, since you probably know, what was their deal with getting Flavor Flav in that video, dude?
That's got to be an Adam question. I think it's a really good one. And maybe it's a Flavor Flav question, but he's I think he was in the news recently where he's just talking about supporting all kinds of music that he loves and respects, which I think has been really cool. Look, for a kid like me who literally graduated school, all my friends were going off to go get, these stable kind of corporate jobs. I moved back in with my parents for a few years. Cell phones didn't exist. The internet barely existed. So I'm sharing, landlines with my folks, trying to get anyone from the industry on the phone while my parents are picking up the line, trying to do their own conversations at the same. The whole thing was a mess. And, for them in particular, to realize that I was enthusiastic, I did, believe in them. And they, in turn, believed in me and brought me into that fold and welcomed me to the team. They were down to, have good ideas and have fun. And sort of like you were saying with the 303 stuff, because that one, I for sure can speak to a little bit more openly. When you get that shot, they came on stage, the point was we wanted to convey it was about fun. And it was so different than a lot of pop music at the time, which, again, not that there's maybe anything wrong with it, but for so long there had been a lot of stuff that just wasn't fun. And we really had to come out and say, hey, this is a different, take on what this could be. And the ironic thing is, everyone sort of set out to almost make an anti-pop record. So of course it becomes, the number one top 40 song in the world. But that's the thing Kevin and I now teach. One of the things we think about a lot and look at a lot is that pop culture is continuously evolving and continuously, turns and shapes. When I was in high school and in college, the biggest top 40 bands were Limp Bizkit, right, and Linkin Park. And would that be top 40 now, right? It's got to just be tied to what's happening in the world. It's tied to what's happening socially and politically, and what's happening in fashion, and what's happening with the economy, and all these elements bring a feeling together, and that feeling's represented through music, right? And it's there's a reason why Rage Against the Machine had their time and the place and were the most significant and influential artist on the planet. And so there's different variations of that. For the 303, it was more of the like, hey, it's time to sort of let your hair down and have some fun, and that was conveyed. I know I'm way off topic on the Taking Back Sunday stuff, but they had their own goals and what they were doing in that space that was very culturally important to people, and sometimes you got to turn that on its head too.
Yeah, man. Like so your guys' what you guys are talking about, that's my music. That's like the music that I'm into. And Eric, I don't even think you're from Hopeless Records, right? I don't think we talked about that, right?
No, yeah, I'm still there. I just I'm celebrating my 19th year.
Oh,
at Hopeless
congratulations
Records this week.
That's awesome, man.
So thank you. Been a long time here. So yeah, and it's good, and I love it. I mean, it's as these guys like to poke fun of me, it is my day job. So I get to work on this on the after hours, which is filling up into its own full-time job after 6 o'clock, which is great. I love it.
Tobin you signed some of their favorite bands, right? Like you signed Taking Back Sunday, not so long ago.
After the majors were done, we did TBS. It was nice. There was a point where I think that, and I'm sure there's some great books out there right now, like Ozzy's Sell Out and things like that I think are really fantastic reads. And I think there was this period of time, and I mean, Kevin knows as well, because this sort of the sort of creation of Warped in that genre that Mike was just talking about, the sort of culture change that was, the major labels were like, hey, we're going to get into this business and we're going to go work radio. And I think at that, and there was a great moment for it. And then when that moment was done, I think alternative radio was changing its, its vibe in a sense. Like a lot of these bands was always a struggle because these bands grew with fans, and the fans didn't necessarily need a radio look, like these bands were selling tickets without any radio, which I think in my early years of touring, I remember being with a band that was signed to Victory Records, and we opened up for a band that had a number one hit at the radio, on radio. We got to this, wasn't a big room, it was like a 450 cap room. And, and they brought in, the major had paid for the bus, had paid for the sort of sound desk and the sound guy and the whole crew. And it was a pretty expensive operation. The band was amazing on stage. The band that opened up the show, I think, brought out 350 kids. And then when that band ceased to play, 300 kids left. And let's get back to the roots of what we do. And Hopeless was in business with Yellow Card, Taking Back Sunday, The Used, Newfound Glory, Bayside, Silverstein, Sum 41, a great group of artists like that we've had an amazing time working with, because I think that there was this great moment, I think, coming out of that time. We're doing All Time Low, and Yellow Card was doing Southern Air, and I think people were looking at and then Taking Back Sunday and The Used were co-headlining, and there was this moment where it was like, is this back? And that moment started rolling into, I think, what we're seeing with the sort of It's Not a Phase and When We're Young, and some of these great moments. These artists are doing better now than I think they've done, and good for them too. Like I, as being someone their same age, like it's nice to have job security in that sense and be meaningful and have a great legacy. So, but yeah, it's been a fun ride. I mean, I say this joke all the time. I've been through 6 or 7 generations of high school kids and their music, and many. I mean, and at least you sort of see that from the ground. And again, Kevin even longer, but I think that it's been amazing to be there at the label. Such a great team, and Lewis owns the place is great. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
It's amazing.
That's what makes summer school so cool, man. To kind of just wrap it all full circle. This is the new kids, man. This is the new bands coming out, and honestly, I said at the beginning of the podcast, the lineup for this tour is amazing. So like, people are going to come out, and if kids didn't get to go to Warped Tour and they don't know what we're talking about the rotating schedule, back in the day, you had to show up to Warped Tour. You didn't know what time your band was going on. You had to show up, so that way you didn't have that kid showing up at a certain time for one band. You're watching every band. You're gonna go out and have fun.
Right. And you're gonna learn some things. You're gonna see some things, and it's all about the experience. And I mean, that's what it's all about. Like summer school, testing it out, seeing what they can do. And I think people will go and find out that this is a lot of fun. And I just really hope it continues for years to come, because you guys, like you three, coming together to make this happen, I think a lot of people are going to be really, really happy.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah,
to talk
this
to us
is
today.
This has been a highlight of the podcast for me, having you three on, man. We're stoked about this one, so we really appreciate you guys coming on. Seriously, man. So
yeah, well, hold up, Kevin. Though you got to answer the question: what was one band that you worked with over the years that was one of your favorites?
For me, it's going to go back. You always had one band on that tour that you had to put your stuff down and go watch. my days were super busy out there. People, it was like a blur. You're putting it out there. But for me, it was like Rancid. It was like, honestly, when I get them out there and I just hear that music, I just have to go to that stage. But for me, recently, like I keep touching because it's just been recently about at Coachella. It was like just running across people from, having a moment with Gwen and talking to her a little bit. And then running into Tom DeLonge, and he flips right into some crazy story from the road when we toured together. And then walking over to the Aquabats and the singer coming right off stage and brings up something. And then, all the way back to like 1984, the Addicts, an old punk band. He walked up and he just comes right up to me and he goes, "Yeah, do you remember in '84 when we slept on the floor of your house one day?" And, it's just, so it's those little moments you have. And then, with the charity stuff I've been doing, and, when I call up in Sum 41 to kick off their final year, started it at that charity event, or Avenged Sevenfold when they show up out at my golf tournament, or now being with the Punk Rock Museum. My history was really deep before Warped Tour. So, going up to, and then, this week and taking back Sundays out there also at Coachella too, so, but you just have those little moments because I was always so working with the bands. I never really developed that personal kind of relationship with them because it was a working type situation. But later in life now, I'll have those moments with people, and we don't talk about business. We just talk about where, how their kids are doing, or how their touring's doing, or what's going on in their lives. And it's been really special recently because I've been running into L7 1995 Warped Tour. I was up for the Punk Rock Museum 1 year anniversary, and I just see Jennifer. We sit down for 2.5 hours and just talk about that career that I was working at Golden Voice doing their shows, and then being on that crazy first year of Warped Tour and what she's been doing in the last. It's like you pick up those conversations, even though it's been almost 30 years. It felt like you just like walking down the street. It's only been a few hours, so it's been a lot of fun that way. And then getting to work with now all these younger artists and younger crew people, and it's been kind of cool. It keeps my energy up a little bit, and it's always great when you guys are doing these podcasts to keep the music alive and keep things going too. So, it's there. And that's what's been fun about this. Maybe it's just another spark on there to kind of bring up the scene again and work with so many fun people that had an opportunity to get to.
Yeah, I can tell you for the Omaha show, we will be taking a big crowd with us. So our 1 year anniversary is coming up in July. And my plan was to have Letdown play our 1 year anniversary. And he said, "I'm kind of booked for the whole summer, man. I can't talk about it." And I was like, all right. So we're actually sending it. We started something called Good Life Records where we help bands out. So we're sending a band out to Nashville here next week. They're Letdown's producing their album. So right when you guys announced it, he told me, and I was just like, "No, dude, you're on that?" And he's like, "Yes." I was like, "Oh, this is going to be so fun." So yeah, me and Spicoli, that's why we talk about Letdown so much. We're huge fans of his. So we're going to bring a whole big crowd out to that show in Omaha, man.
Cool. Nice.
Well, be sure to reach out to Big Picture and get some passes and come down to do some interviews that day and talk to the bands and build something around that. Yeah. You guys will make sure.
Thank you guys very much for coming on, man. This has been awesome. So
yeah, an absolute pleasure to speak with you three. Thank you guys so much.
Likewise.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna fly out and run it
until the midnight hour.